Human notices the alien girl blush in Starlight, and the alien girl says the stars reflected his desire. Hello everyone, before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let's get back to our main character. James Harper stood under the vast expanse of the alien sky, the light of distant stars casting an ethereal glow across the landscape. He wasn't sure how he had ended up on this strange world, only that it felt like a dream filled with mysteries beyond his wildest imagination. He had always been fascinated by the stars, the idea that somewhere, out there, the universe was full of life he had never known. But nothing had prepared him for the encounter that would change everything. Across from him stood Zara Zelther, a being from a distant galaxy. Her skin shimmered a soft shade of pale blue, her large, luminous eyes reflecting the stars above. Zara was unlike anyone James had ever seen. Her features were delicate, almost ethereal, as though she were not entirely from this world. She had spoken to him earlier in a language he didn't understand, but somehow, they had communicated. The connection between them, though mysterious, felt real. It was the way she looked at him now that made his heart skip a beat. Zara was standing close, yet there was an unspoken distance between them, a distance he couldn't quite explain. Her gaze had softened, as though she were searching for something in him, something deep. It made James feel vulnerable, as if she could see straight into his soul. Then, as the wind gently stirred the alien grass beneath their feet, something unusual happened. Zara's face flushed, the soft blue of her skin deepening in color. It wasn't the kind of blush James had seen on Earth, but it was unmistakable. Her expression shifted, her eyes widened, and she seemed caught in a moment of unexpected emotion. James couldn't help but stare, unsure of what was happening. Was it the stars? Or was it something he had said? He was about to ask when Zara spoke, her voice soft but steady. The stars, they reflect what you desire, she said, her voice carrying the weight of something ancient. What you see in them is not just the light, but your heart. Your desires, your thoughts, they are mirrored in their glow. James blinked, stunned by her words. He hadn't expected such a profound answer. His thoughts raced, trying to make sense of what she had just said. Was she talking about him? Did she mean that the stars were showing her what he truly felt? Zara looked at him then, her expression unreadable, and for a moment, the silence between them felt thick with meaning. James swallowed hard, his heart still pounding. He had been caught in her gaze, her soft voice, the way the stars shimmered above them as if they were a part of their conversation. What was it that he truly desired? Zara's gaze never left him, and in that moment, James felt as if the distance between them had closed, just a little. He could no longer tell where the stars ended and where the feeling inside him began. James stood there, his mind racing, as Zara's words echoed in his thoughts. The stars reflected what he desired. What did that even mean? He could still see her blush, the way her skin seemed to glow under the night sky. He had never seen anything so captivating. Her presence was like a dream, unreal yet so immediate, so real. Her delicate features, her alien beauty, were mesmerizing, and yet it was the softness in her eyes that pulled him in. The stars above them twinkled, as though responding to the unspoken connection between them. He couldn't help but wonder, did she feel it too? Was there a pull between them that went beyond the language they shared? James took a step closer, his feet crunching softly on the alien ground beneath him. The air smelled different here, fresh, almost electric, like something new, something unexplored. Zara's eyes followed his movement, and she tilted her head slightly, as if she were studying him, trying to understand him in a way that went beyond the physical. Her gaze was intense, and James felt his heart beat faster, not out of fear, but because of a strange, undeniable connection. What do you mean? James finally found his voice, his words coming out more softly than he intended. The stars, they show your desires. Zara seemed to pause, as if carefully choosing her words. Then, her lips parted, and her voice came again, low and steady, but with a weight that seemed to stretch across the distance between them. The stars do not lie, she said, her eyes never leaving his. They reflect the truth of your heart, even when you do not understand it yourself. Your desires, they are written in the light, in the way you see the world. James felt a shiver run down his spine. Was she talking about something deeper than just the surface of things? Was she implying that the way he saw her was more than just physical attraction? The air between them felt thick with meaning, and for a moment, neither of them spoke. The only sound was the distant hum of the planet's winds, and the soft rustling of the alien grass around them. James tried to process her words. He had never really thought about his desires in such a way before, but now that she had said it, it made a strange kind of sense. He had always felt something inside him, a longing, a pull toward the unknown. And now, standing here with Zara, that feeling was stronger than ever. Zara's gaze softened as she stepped closer, her steps light, almost floating. There was a certain grace in the way she moved, a fluidity that seemed to belong to someone not entirely bound by the same rules of the world James knew. It was like she was part of the stars themselves. "Do you know what you truly want, James?" Zara asked, her voice almost a whisper now. Her eyes searched his, as if she were looking for something hidden beneath his exterior. James felt his breath catch in his throat. What did he truly want? He had spent so much of his life trying to understand the world around him, chasing after dreams and goals that others had set for him. But standing here, with Zara, in this alien place, he realized that the answers he had been searching for might not be out there in the stars. They might be right here, in this moment. Zara seemed to sense the shift in his thoughts. She smiled, a small, knowing smile, and for the first time, James felt like she understood him in a way no one ever had. It was a strange, comforting feeling, and for a moment, all the distance that had once existed between them seemed to disappear. The silence stretched between them, heavy with unspoken thoughts. James could feel his heart racing in his chest, but there was something calming about Zara's presence. The stars above them twinkled brightly, casting a soft glow over the alien landscape. He had never felt this connected to another person, especially not someone so different from him, so far removed from everything he knew. But in this moment, none of that seemed to matter. Zara's eyes were locked on his, and he could see the same uncertainty mirrored in them. She had said that the stars reflected his desires, but now, James couldn't help but wonder if there was more to it. What if, just as the stars reflected his thoughts, they also reflected hers? What did she want? What was she looking for in him? He wanted to ask, but the words felt stuck in his throat. Zara's smile softened as if she understood the turmoil inside him. She stepped closer, her movements almost fluid, as though she were gliding rather than walking. James took a breath, trying to steady himself. "Zara," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "What do you want?" The question hung in the air, charged with all the curiosity, uncertainty, and hope he had been feeling since they first met. Zara looked at him for a long moment, as if contemplating the question. She tilted her head, her delicate features framed by the soft glow of the stars. "What I want is not so simple," she replied, her voice gentle yet firm. "I am not from here, James. My existence is different from yours, from what you know. But—" She paused, as if searching for the right words. "I have seen many worlds, met many beings, but I have never felt this before." James felt his breath catch. There was something in her words, something that made his heart ache with a deep, unfamiliar longing. He wasn't sure if it was the way she said it, or if it was the weight of her emotions, but something about Zara seemed so much more complex than he had ever imagined. "What is it that you feel?" James asked, almost afraid to hear the answer, but needing to know. Zara's gaze softened further, and for a moment, she seemed lost in thought. "It is difficult to explain," she said, her voice almost a whisper now. "But it is as if something inside me is awakening. Something I did not know was there. You make me feel things I have never felt before. Things I cannot name, but they are real." James could feel his heart swelling with a mixture of hope and fear. Zara wasn't just talking about the stars anymore. She was talking about them, about him and her. There was a pull between them, a connection that felt like it could reach beyond the stars themselves. "I don't know what to do with this," Zara continued, her voice soft yet filled with a quiet strength. "I am not like you, James. I come from a place that is far beyond your understanding. But here, in this moment, I feel something that I cannot ignore." James stepped closer, his heart pounding. It felt like the universe itself was holding its breath. The space between them seemed to disappear, and all he could hear was the sound of his own heartbeat, loud in his ears. "Maybe we don't need to understand everything right now," he said quietly, his voice steady despite the emotions swirling inside him. "Maybe we just need to be here, in this moment, together." Zara's eyes met his, and for the first time, James saw a flicker of something that resembled hope in her gaze. It was a small, delicate thing, but it was there. And for the first time, James felt like he wasn't alone in the universe. He reached out, and Zara took his hand, her fingers cool against his warm skin. The stars above seemed to shine a little brighter, as if acknowledging the connection between them. In that moment, they were no longer two beings from different worlds. They were two hearts, beating in the same rhythm, connected by something beyond understanding. The night stretched on, the stars above them glowing like distant whispers from another time. James held Zara's hand, the connection between them deeper than anything he had ever felt. Her skin was cool to the touch, yet somehow, the warmth of their shared moment made everything around them feel alive. The alien landscape around them seemed to quiet, as if the planet itself were holding its breath, watching the two of them in a rare moment of silence. Zara didn't let go of his hand, and neither did he. For a long time, neither spoke. The quiet was comfortable, even peaceful. But it was also filled with a kind of tension, a pull that neither of them could deny. James couldn't stop thinking about what Zara had said, the stars reflected desires, his desires, her desires. Was it possible that the stars had truly shown her something about him, about them? As he looked into her eyes, he felt a sense of wonder he couldn't explain. Was she really seeing something in him that he hadn't realized? Or was it just the way the stars shone, illuminating the depths of their connection in ways words could never capture? "Do you ever wonder if the universe has a plan for us?" James asked softly, his voice breaking the silence. Zara's gaze met his, and for a moment, she seemed to be pondering the question herself. "The universe," she repeated. "I am not sure what the universe plans for anyone. But I do know that sometimes, we are drawn to things or people we cannot explain. Perhaps it is not about a plan, but about being where we need to be at the right time." James nodded slowly, thinking about her words. It made sense, in a way. Maybe everything that had led him here, to this moment with Zara, was not by chance. Perhaps this was the place, the time, where they were meant to meet. Zara's fingers tightened around his hand, and he could feel her pulse, steady and calm, as though she had found peace in the connection they shared. "James," she said, her voice gentle, "there is something I must tell you. Something I have not shared with anyone, not even my own people." Her words intrigued him, pulling him even closer to her, though they stood so close already. "What is it?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Zara took a deep breath, her eyes searching the stars above, as if drawing strength from them. "I am not just a visitor from another world," she said quietly. "I was sent here. My people, we have been watching your world for a long time. We have seen your struggles, your triumphs, your pain. And we believe that you may hold the key to something very important." James blinked, trying to process what she had just said. "The key? What do you mean?" Zara turned back to him, her gaze filled with both determination and vulnerability. There is a force, a presence in the universe that we have been trying to understand. And we believe that you, James, might be the one who can help us unlock it. James felt a chill run down his spine. The weight of her words hung heavy in the air, and for the first time, he realized that everything had shifted. This was not just a chance meeting. This was something far bigger, far more significant than he could have ever imagined. As Zara stood there, her presence as calming as it was overwhelming, James realized that whatever lay ahead for them, it was something they would have to face together. James felt the weight of Zara's words settle in his chest like a heavy, unspoken truth. The idea that his life, his world, was connected to something far greater than he had ever imagined was both thrilling and overwhelming. He had thought that he was just a normal person, living in an ordinary world. But now, standing here with Zara, he realized that his life was anything but ordinary. "What kind of force are you talking about?" James asked, his voice steady despite the uncertainty swirling inside him. Zara didn't answer right away. Instead, she stepped back slightly, her eyes scanning the horizon as if searching for something just beyond their reach. "It is difficult to explain," she said softly, almost as though she were speaking to herself. "It is not something that can be seen or touched. It is a presence, a force that exists between all things in the universe. It binds us, connects us, but it is also something that can be manipulated, controlled. My people have been studying it for generations, trying to understand its true nature." James watched her closely, trying to make sense of what she was saying. He could feel the intensity of her words, the weight of the responsibility she was carrying. "And you think I can help you with this?" he asked, more to himself than to her. Zara nodded, her gaze never leaving his. "Yes. We believe that you are the key. Something about your mind, your ability to see beyond what others can, makes you unique. We have seen glimpses of this power, this potential in you." James shook his head, still trying to grasp the full scope of what Zara was saying. "I'm just a regular guy. I don't know anything about forces or powers. I'm not special." Zara's eyes softened, and she stepped closer, her voice quiet but firm. "You are more special than you realize, James. We have seen your ability to question, to seek answers when others would give up. You have an open heart and an open mind, and that is something that most beings lack. You can see the world in a way that others cannot, and that is what makes you unique." James felt a flicker of hope, but also doubt. He wasn't sure if he was ready for whatever this journey was going to be, but one thing was certain: Zara believed in him, and that belief made him feel as if he could actually do something important. "So, what happens now?" he asked, his voice steady, though his heart was racing. Zara gave him a small smile, a mixture of relief and resolve in her expression. "Now, we take the first step," she said. "We work together, to understand this force and its potential. You are not alone in this, James. I will be with you, every step of the way." The wind stirred around them, carrying the soft scent of the alien planet. The sky above shimmered with 1,000 stars, and for the first time, James felt like he was part of something much larger than himself. It wasn't just about him anymore. It was about them, about the universe, and about whatever lay ahead. "I'm ready," he said, the words feeling stronger with each passing second. Zara's smile widened, and she nodded. "Good. We begin now." As they stood together, hand in hand, the stars seemed to shine a little brighter, as if the universe itself was acknowledging the beginning of something new, something extraordinary. James had no idea what the future held, but he knew one thing for certain: he wasn't walking this path alone. The days that followed were unlike any James had ever experienced. It felt like the world had shifted, that everything he knew was now on the brink of transformation. He and Zara spent hours exploring the alien planet, walking under the glow of its strange, luminous skies, discussing what they had learned about the mysterious force she had spoken of. James had always considered himself a skeptic, someone who believed only in what he could see and touch. But now, Surrounded by Zara and the strange wonders of this world, he couldn't deny that something bigger, something more profound, was at work. Zara was always patient with him, explaining the details of her mission and the knowledge her people had gathered over generations. She spoke of her planet's history, of the many beings her people had encountered, but she kept returning to the same idea, the force that bound the universe together. It is not just a power, she had explained one evening, her voice quiet as they watched the stars above. It is the very essence of existence, a force that transcends time and space. It is what connects all living things, every star, every planet. And it is what my people have been trying to understand. James couldn't help but feel the weight of her words. There was something about the way she spoke, so certain, yet with an underlying sense of vulnerability, that made him believe every word. As they sat together in the quiet of the night, James found himself thinking about his own life, his own place in this vast universe. What was his role in all of this? What did the stars reflect about him? He had never been someone who believed in destiny or fate, but standing beside Zara, in this alien world, it felt like he was part of something much bigger than himself. "Do you ever wonder if we're all connected to it?" he asked her one night, his voice barely a whisper. "The force? The stars?" Zara looked at him, her eyes thoughtful. "I believe we are all connected," she said. "We just don't always see it. But I think you feel it, James. I think you've always felt it." Her words made his heart race, and he looked away, unsure how to respond. The truth was, he had always felt something inside him, a deep longing for something more, something beyond the mundane. But he had never been able to explain it. Now, with Zara beside him, he felt like he was beginning to understand. They were connected, he realized, not just to the universe, but to each other. Over the next few days, their bond deepened. Zara taught him how to meditate, how to focus on his inner self and feel the connection between all things. It was difficult at first, but with her guidance, James began to feel something stirring inside him. It was subtle at first, a lightness, a quiet sense of knowing, but it grew stronger with each passing day. Zara seemed to notice the changes in him too. One evening, as they sat together on a cliff overlooking a vast ocean of light, she turned to him, her eyes full of warmth. "You're beginning to understand," she said softly. "I can see it in you." James nodded, feeling a sense of peace wash over him. He didn't know what the future held, but for the first time in his life, he felt like he was exactly where he was meant to be. With Zara. On this strange world. Connected to something much larger than himself. And as the stars above them shimmered, James knew that their journey had only just begun. The days were beginning to blur together as James and Zara continued their journey through the alien world. The air felt charged with a sense of purpose, as if every step they took was leading them closer to some unknown destiny. They had traveled to places James could hardly have imagined, vast crystalline forests that hummed with energy, towering mountains that seemed to pierce the sky, and deep caverns that shimmered with bioluminescent light. Everywhere they went, Zara taught him more about the force that bound the universe together. With each lesson, James felt his understanding grow, his connection to the universe deepening. But it wasn't just about the force anymore. It was about Zara. Her presence, so constant and unwavering, had become a source of comfort for him. She was no longer just a guide, a teacher from another world. She had become someone he trusted completely, someone whose thoughts seemed to mirror his own. He had come to realize that their bond went beyond the force they both sought to understand. It was something more profound, something that transcended words. As they walked through a field of towering, glowing plants one evening, Zara turned to him, her face illuminated by the soft light of the plants. "James," she said, her voice as gentle as the breeze that stirred the air around them. "There is something I must tell you. Something I have been holding back." James stopped, sensing the weight in her words. He turned to face her, his heart beating a little faster. "What is it?" he asked, his voice steady, though his mind was racing with possibilities. Zara took a deep breath, her eyes locking with his. I cannot stay here forever, she said softly. My mission, it will eventually take me away from this place. Away from you. The words hit James like a sudden gust of wind. For a moment, everything seemed to stop. The field, the glow, even the stars above them, they all seemed to fade into the background as his focus shifted entirely to Zara. He hadn't thought about the future beyond their time together on this world. He had been so focused on the present, on the connection they shared, that he hadn't considered what would happen once their mission was complete. But, why? James asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Zara's expression softened, and she reached out, taking his hand in hers. Because my people need me, she explained. I was sent here to learn, to find answers. Once those answers are found, I must return to my world and share them with my people. James felt a knot form in his stomach. The thought of losing her, of her leaving, was something he hadn't prepared for. It was as if a part of him, one he had only just discovered, was being ripped away. But I don't want you to go, he said, the words spilling out before he could stop them. Zara's eyes glistened in the soft light, and for a moment, she didn't speak. Then, she smiled, a small, wistful smile that held more emotion than words could convey. I know, James, she said quietly. But sometimes, we must do what is necessary, even if it is difficult. James felt the weight of her words settle in his chest. It wasn't fair. It wasn't what he had hoped for. But deep down, he knew she was right. The universe was calling her, and he couldn't ask her to ignore that. I'll never forget you, he said, his voice thick with emotion. Zara squeezed his hand gently, her smile never fading. And I will never forget you, James. You have shown me things I never thought possible. You have changed me, in ways I can't even explain. The words hung in the air between them, a promise, a bond that neither distance nor time could erase. They stood there for a moment longer, hand in hand, knowing that the future was uncertain, but the connection they shared would endure, no matter where the stars took them. The wind whispered through the glowing plants, and for the first time, James didn't feel so alone. He knew that, somehow, they would always be connected. Even if they were worlds apart. As the days passed, the reality of Zara's departure began to settle in. James could feel the change in the air, a subtle shift in the way they moved through the world together. The moments that had once felt endless now seemed fleeting, and every glance, every word shared between them, felt heavier with the knowledge that time was running out. They continued their exploration, traveling to new places on the alien planet, but the adventure now had a bittersweet quality. Every step forward felt like a step towards something inevitable. Despite the uncertainty of the future, there was a quiet understanding between them. They didn't need to speak about it all the time, it hung in the air, unspoken, but present. Zara was preparing for the next phase of her mission, and James was starting to understand what that meant. He wasn't ready to let her go, but deep down, he knew that he couldn't ask her to stay. Do you think there's more to life than just this moment? James asked one evening as they sat together on a cliff, overlooking a vast expanse of glowing fields. Zara sat beside him, her gaze distant, as if she were looking at something far beyond the horizon. There is always more, she said softly. But sometimes, the most important moments are the ones we experience together. The ones that make us feel alive, even if they are brief. James nodded, her words resonating deep within him. He had never thought about life like that before. To him, the moments had always been about the future, about what was next. But now, he realized, it was about living fully in the present, in the time they had. Zara turned to him, her eyes meeting his with a look of quiet intensity. James, there's something I want to ask you, she said. I know we've talked about my mission and what lies ahead. But I need to know, do you regret this? Do you regret meeting me? The question took James by surprise. He looked at her, his heart aching with the weight of everything they had shared. No, he said without hesitation. I don't regret any of it. Meeting you, it's changed everything for me. I didn't know what I was missing until you showed me. Zara's expression softened, a small smile tugging at the corners of her lips. I feel the same way, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. You've opened my eyes to things I didn't even know I was searching for. The stars above them shimmered with a soft, quiet light, and for a moment, the world seemed to pause, as if holding its breath. What happens next? James asked, his voice barely audible, his gaze fixed on the stars. Zara took a deep breath, her fingers brushing his lightly. I don't know, she said, but whatever it is, we will face it together, no matter where the path leads. James felt a warmth spread through him, not just from her touch, but from the certainty in her words. He didn't know what the future held, but with Zara by his side, he felt like he could face anything. The wind whispered through the grass, the night sky stretched out endlessly above them, and for the first time, James didn't feel afraid. Whatever came next, he knew they would be ready for it. As they sat together in the quiet, their hands intertwined, the stars seemed to shine a little brighter, as if giving their blessing to the bond they had forged. In that moment, James realized that even though the journey ahead was unknown, the connection they shared was the one thing that would always remain constant. The days continued to pass in a haze, the lingering weight of Zara's impending departure always present, but never spoken of directly. James and Zara spent more time together than ever before, not just learning from one another, but simply enjoying each other's company in a way that seemed to defy the knowledge of what was to come. They sat beneath alien trees whose branches shimmered with soft light, talked in the glow of bioluminescent plants, and watched as the stars above them danced in the night sky. Every shared moment seemed more precious now, as though the universe itself was gifting them these last moments together. But the question of what would come next lingered, heavy between them, a truth neither wanted to face. One evening, as they walked through a quiet forest, Zara stopped suddenly, her gaze drifting upward. Do you ever wonder what's beyond all of this? She asked, her voice distant. James paused beside her, following her gaze to the endless stretch of stars above. All of what? He asked softly. All of this, our time here, this world, everything we've learned, she replied, her tone almost wistful. Do you ever think there's more out there, something greater than what we can even imagine? James looked at her, sensing that this question was more than just about the universe. It was about the space between them, the connection they had formed, and the inevitable change that was coming. I do, he said, his voice filled with honesty. I've spent my whole life looking for something, never really knowing what it was. But with you, Zara, I feel like I've found it. I don't know what comes next, but I know that I'm not alone anymore. Zara turned to him then, her eyes searching his, as if looking for the truth in his words. And what if what's next takes us apart? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper. The question hung in the air, and James felt his heart tighten in his chest. He hadn't wanted to acknowledge it, but it was true, this connection, this bond, was not something they could ignore, no matter how much they wished for things to stay the same. Then we face it together, he said, the words coming from a place deeper than he expected. Because no matter what happens, I know we'll always be connected. Even if we're apart. Zara's gaze softened, and for the first time, a tear slipped down her cheek, glimmering in the dim light of the forest. James reached out, wiping it gently with his thumb, and smiled at her with a tenderness he had never thought possible. You've changed me, Zara, he said, his voice thick with emotion. You've opened my heart in ways I didn't know were possible. I don't know what the future holds, but I know that whatever happens, I'll never forget what we've shared. Zara smiled through the tears, her expression full of love and understanding. And I will never forget you, James. You've shown me a world I never imagined. And you've made me believe that there's more to life than just what I can see. The wind stirred gently around them, carrying the scent of the alien trees, and the stars above twinkled as if in agreement. They stood together in silence for a long moment, simply existing in the space they had created together. As the night deepened, they knew that their journey was far from over, even if the path they walked would soon change. But for now, in this moment, They were together, and that was enough. The universe seemed to pause, holding its breath, as the bond between them grew stronger, unbreakable. No matter where life would take them, no matter the distance, they would always carry the memories of this time, the time when they were united under the stars.